Taryn, how you
Hello,
doing?
Tim. I'm good. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. So exciting times, Sundance, a film, a hybrid AI live action film.
Yep.
Um, for those here in the group that don't know you, tell me who you are and what you do.
Well, I am Taryn O'Neill. I have been in entertainment now for, I don't even want to say, Tim, it's been a very long time. I've worn many hats. I started out as an agent's assistant at William Morris, and then I pursued sort of a traditional acting career, but then started wearing the producer hat in the web series space, which is where I met you. I also was an actress in the web series space. And we sort of were in the early days of indie media online, which was really fun. And then I started writing, first in the web series space, then sort of more traditionally. And then I put on the directing hat and directed a sci-fi short film, which led to directing a couple fantasy romance movies. And now I'm sort of I've always been a sci-fi writer and a technologist, and so I started dipping my toe into the AI space as a researcher, as a writer in 2014 when I started Sirens, which was my science and technology advocacy group, because I'm a big nerd as well. And a lot of the work I was doing started deviating into AI, and so this. I did a short film with someone else, Tamara Krinsky, in 2023 for Arizona State University around climate fiction, but we used some Firefly AI tools in that because they are ethically trained. And then I partnered up with Adobe for a short film in December to make over the Christmas holidays and show at Sundance at their Adobe house. And it was part live action with human actors and then in AI generated worlds. And here I am recovering from that
Yeah.
experience.
So back up just a second. You also publish a weekly newsletter about AI and filmmaking. Can you tell us about that as well?
Yes, almost forgot about that. It's called Future Film Fridays. And it is a weekly overview of all the news that sort of hits at that intersect of emerging technology and entertainment. So I'm a futurist, which sort of came out of my sci-fi writing, and I love to sort of prognosticate where things are heading. But I'm also really big about sort of sharing knowledge and information. And our world is, especially technology, is accelerating so quickly. I feel it's my responsibility to like be sharing what is happening and at the rate it's happening. So it's sort of my offering to the community.
So, how did this Adobe project that winds up at Sundance, how did this come about? How did you hear about it? How did you get involved?
Well, because I used those Adobe Firefly tools in the 2023 short, I happened to be at an AI event here in LA. And one of the head honchos at Adobe at Firefly, Hannah Esclar, was there, and I introduced myself. And I just let her know that we had been early adopters and that, usually you don't sort of conjoin climate and AI because there's obviously a lot of environmental issues around AI, but it was the best way for us to elevate the authors that we were featuring in this short film, their stories visually, and doing it with ethically trained models felt like it was okay. And so I told her about the project, and she ended up connecting me with the Firefly marketing team, and they had asked me to do a project for Adobe Max. I didn't have the time to do it, and then they circled back right after Thanksgiving, saying that there was this opportunity for Sundance. So it was myself and another female director who is an animation expert. She's worked at Illumination. Her name's Momo Wang, and she created a fully animated AI short film, and mine was hybrid.
So, I'll be posting your film in the AI filmmakers and storytellers group here. Um, but tell us a little bit about it. What's the story? What is it about?
Well, the core of it is a love letter to the power of storytelling. We I feel like have lost, we've lost the plot, and that our stories as a society, as communities, have become fractured and siloed. And myths and grand stories, they were sort of our connective tissue moving through history. They were what helped us to move through uncertainty and big challenges. And so this is like a mythic journey that sort of explores that. And it's told through the point of view of a whale, because there's new research evidence that looks into the clicks, the codas of sperm whales, and how there's similarities to human vowels and patterns in this new analysis. It's actually done by AI, analysis of these clicks. And so I sort of posited the story. What would be the story a whale would tell if they have language? What are their stories? And so it was sort of through this lens that we explore the sort of surreal fracturing world, and then sort of this sort of primordial seashore that is, sort of feels like very at the beginning of time, exploring this, reflecting on this issue, and then visualizing the power of the fire and the stories around the fire. And sort of my passion is about creating visions and stories about better futures. So what can those stories, how can they actually manifest into something that can be beneficial to society?
What AI tools did you use, as you started on this project?
We were under the Firefly model. So we were using the Firefly image and video generators, and then their partner models. And so they have a number of relationships, partnerships within the Firefly ecosystem. So Google VO and Nano Banana, Luma, Runway. There's Flux from an image generator. So those were all the ones, and Mari, which is Moon Valley's ethical AI video generator as well. So we primarily used Firefly, some VO, some Mari, and then always a lot of Nano Banana when it comes to creating consistency, character consistency, and yeah, keyframes for scenes.
And so traditional script,
Traditional script.
great.
Yep. Just
And
written.
yeah, and live action actors, yes?
Yeah. Yes, too. We shot them on a green screen. So every world and scene you see is informed or created in a generative model. But when you see them, the actors in a close up, when you see them in dialogue, that is purely traditional VFX compositing.
And what did you, like, learn along this journey, in terms of the workflow?
That is ever changing. It's ever evolving. I mean, Tim, we had such a tight schedule. It was, I mean, I didn't have a day off since I first got presented this opportunity in early December. Um, so it was basically, it's funny, there was a theme in it that didn't quite make the final cut, but it's about spiral time. So not linear time, but everything is sort of on top of each other. And I feel like that's what our workflow was as well, where it was like, we had VFX shots out of the VFX house before we had locked picture, which like you never do that, and so we were basically pre-editing the movie in prep. As much as we could, we would have to generate those background plates to make sure that we had the proper lighting on the day, on the stage. But then, it was like you would have an idea of how you wanted a scene to go. And sometimes the tools wouldn't cooperate. Sometimes I know a lot of the times, especially because, we're both in the AI space and we see all these incredible demos. And those, some of them are out of a more professional, like comfy UI workflow. Some utilize tools that, are not sort of within the consumer tools we were using. And you see, like
Consumer slot machines.
the slot machine is real. It really is real. And so you need, even though AI can be so supportive when it comes to condensing time, you also have to have this infinite patience, because you can't predict when you're going to get what you're looking for. And often you don't get what you're looking for and you have to pivot. And I think that, that's it doesn't benefit, a director who is so fixed in their very specific, way of telling the story visually. But if you're open to the hallucinations, or if you're open to a happy accident, it can be a really lovely, lovely tool. It's just nice if you have a time buffer for that, so you're not like, running against the clock.
Did you use, the tools in storyboarding?
Yes. Oh yeah. That was, I mean, that is where the strengths of the tools lie across Hollywood right now is storyboarding and previs. It's still prompting camera angles. It's still difficult. The models don't like camera angles. So if you can have a traditional somebody who is skilled at creating a storyboard sketch, at least something very rudimentary, and using that as a reference piece, and then you can get there the model is using that as its map, and then you're bringing in more of the aesthetic and the details. That's great, but yeah, it's still not like a plug and play, but it's seminal to develop, especially our piece where we had to build an animatic right away.
Yeah. And on this specific project, was Adobe like a client? Were you submitting everything through them, or were you given freedom, or was it what was the experience?
It was a marketing partnership, so the IP remains with me, which is great because it's sort of the very beginning of this mythic operating system project that I'm undertaking, that I've been sort of thinking on from like a writer's perspective for like the past 9 months. But they it was a partnership where, because it was over the Christmas holidays, we were really sort of running our own ship over the holidays, and then they sort of came in full throttle once we sort of presented a rough cut. And it certainly became a time crunch then, because when you're dealing with a big corporation, everybody, not just the team you're dealing with, wants a say. So that was certainly a learning experience.
Did you find doing changes a little bit different from normal traditional production changes?
Yes, I mean, like, the changes that we had to do, I couldn't have done in production, in regular production. That would have been impossible. But because of just being able to be creative, like, if there was whole scenes we had to recut and reconfigure, you can create in generative AI a wide shot, from behind of your 2 actors, and create digital doubles and get them to, record new voiceover, and, it seems as if the scene is happening. Or worst case scenario, you're with consent and permission, you're cloning their voices in 11 labs and doing it that way, which we had to do for one of the scenes as well. So, it's you certainly have ability to pivot much quicker. But that was
Did
just
you
the way of the
did you have,
beast.
for lack of a better definition, did you have pickup days?
No.
No?
I mean
Okay.
yes, we had pickup days and certainly with my generative AI team,
Yeah,
but no.
that's kinda where I was going, yeah.
Yes, no, we had full pickup days.
Yeah. Cool, cool. What surprised you out of the process the most? Like, what was the biggest surprise?
I think the biggest surprise was how much in-person work we all did. My AI art department AI lead, Maddie Hong, she was really big on, because she's done a lot of these jam sessions with, her fellow artists, of getting the group together. And so we had a couple of in-person days with like the whole team, like, 5 AI artists, the editor, one producer, and then other days where her and her chief technology, like creative technologist, Julia Harris, they were camped out of my house for 3 days. And
And
so
what city were you all in?
LA.
Okay,
Yeah, we're still
cool.
here. So yeah, it was just that sort of in-person collaboration, because I think there's this myth of like the lone person like making the AI short film, in their office on their lunch hour, on their own, where it's like, no, this was such a collaborative process, and we all had to be in each other's brains, because my script was really ambitious and it had a lot of, it's one of the reasons why we sort of had to pivot towards the end, because it was too ambitious for the short period of time that we had to tell the story properly. And yeah, we all had to be in sync, and we were just on constant WhatsApp chats and Zooms, and like it was just this full mind meld.
So you've been to Sundance before. What was different about this experience, and where did the screening of this project take place?
I had only been to Sundance 20 years ago, and that was as an actress, aspiring actress. My manager had sent me with, instructions to network and go to parties, and so I was just kind of there being like, "Hi, pick me, like, think that I'm fascinating, so you cast me," it was much more like a desperate energy. And this was just like, please let me serve this story in this project. I went there being like, I don't even think I'm going to get to see a movie, but we screened at the Adobe House, which was a really cool facility location on Main Street. And it was so supportive, and it was really community driven. And there was like the top floor where it was just like full of people, both from the technology, innovation, generative AI world, and then just movie people. And it was just a great conversation that we had with Cynthia Littleton from Variety. And that's where it screened. And then I had a bunch of other panels I had to speak on. And yeah, it was, what was cool is that I had so many of my team that were in attendance as well. So it was great. It felt like the whole team was there.
Talk about that space for people that haven't been to Sundance before. Main Street is kind of the main fair. There's one main theater there where Sundance films are screened, and then there's a bunch of shops and restaurants that get taken over. Was your was the venue previously vacant, or did they take over an existing restaurant? What was the place?
I have no idea. They did the magic before I got there, but it was a three-story, location on Main Street. So, and it had a huge like red A basically in front of it. You couldn't miss it, and there was always a huge line because they offered swag and demos, and so people like to do that. But yeah, it's a fun ski town Main Street that just has shops and restaurants, and it basically gets cordoned off and feels a little bit like a brand Disneyland now. The Egyptian Theater is, I think, the main theater that's, at the end of it. And then there's the Eccles and other theaters around town. It feels so much more brand centric than I remember it. It was about the movies. And it always happens. It's just like, Comic Con. It used to be about the comics and sci-fi and fantasy, and now it feels like it's about the brands and the studios and the activations, and everything sort of, and South by is the same way. So it all converges to where the dollar signs are. But there's certainly way more influencers and content creators I felt there this year, especially.
Have you ever participated in an activation like this before where a brand has brought you in to help with something?
No, first time.
What were kind of the learning curve, if you're giving advice to somebody that gets this opportunity in the future with their project where, there's a lot of AI creation tools out there and people are reaching out to us all the time to partner up and do stuff. But
Mhm.
what would be some good takeaways of, if you're an independent filmmaker and your film gets picked to participate at some event, what can you what are the heads up you could give some people?
I think having as much clarity conversations at the beginning as possible. Don't assume that it's functioning like, a production company or a studio that you've worked with before. They don't know what they don't know as well, because everybody's sort of treading into this new sort of entertainment marketing space. A brand functioning as a studio. This is new to them too. Everybody just wants to succeed and reach eyeballs and like create a narrative that's sticky. But yes, have sort of as many conversations and clarity around what is expected, because it's not just about your movie, it's about how you're delivering the movie. And often, like for us, we had to deliver BTS, behind the scenes, and social content, and then you have to be available for that socials and sharing it. So it is like producing your movie and being, the production company trying to sell it out there in the marketplace to a festival, but instead you're partnering with a brand and doing the same thing. So, for instance, Adobe's worked with AI studios before, like Promise or Secret Level, and those have infrastructure already built in. But when you're a freelancer like myself, you can't function the same way. So you have to take that into account, especially when you're negotiating, of like those asks that they might, pull up at the very end where you're like, I don't have an in-house editor. I have to hire somebody else for an extra day. So you want to make sure you build in those contingencies too.
Talk about the behind the scenes. I've noticed that a lot of AI projects now are very heavy on behind the scenes to use that footage for social media, and it almost seems like some of that gets more views than the actual project itself. How did you handle that? Did you have a separate team for that, or were you doing that yourself as well?
No, it's really true. I think most people they want to see the wizard behind the curtain because, you see something in AI and you're like, oh, okay, great, that looks fabulous or not, or what, but how was it made? Like how much of it was AI? What were the tools? What was the workflow? And so yes, we basically tried to capture moments when we were working together, screen captures, like just thinking that we knew we would have to like pull together BTS materials. We had a specific cameraman on set for our on set day, but again, that's more live action. That wasn't as much of the generative AI process. So, in a perfect world, I would have had that camera person around more if we could have afforded that. And then we had a separate editor who's great, whose skill set was that. But we did, we pivoted with the story, as I mentioned, and so our BTS had to change because there were some story elements that were left behind for this cut. So that was like a really big last minute pivot, and there was lots, if you are required to do BTS, make sure you get exactly what they are looking for, as opposed to please just give us a BTS, because your idea of BTS and a technologies company of BTS are very different.
You mentioned that you would have scheduled a camera for additional time. What would they have shot on additional time? What are those shots that you would have loved to have had?
Um, our workflows, and also one people who are sort of skilled on showing, because we were using Firefly boards, which are these very large infinite canvases, being able to show that process and then being able to edit within that and making it like really visually palatable. Because we had such a short period of time, our boards, we had so many of them for each of the scenes, but they were a little chaotic and haphazard. But that's the stuff people want to see. Well, how did you go from an image to a keyframe? Did you go into Photoshop? Then when did you bring it into the video generator? What were the prompts? So all those steps. And then showing that, but what's important to me is showing the humans behind those steps. So that's where the cameraman would have come in as well.
And when you were working on this, like when the keyframes were being developed and the video was being generated, were you together for those times, or were you, did you have meetings and then separate and work on stuff individually?
Both. Both. It depended on where we were in the schedule. I would just always, we were working in Lucid. Our file management system was in Lucid. And so I would be going through like approvals folders of images, and then images I had approved to potential videos. So that would have been remote. But then, when we were in crunch time, we were all together, and I was basically running back and forth between, monitors, taking a look at different, and I was generating as well towards the end.
Gotcha. How many people were generating?
We had a total, I mean, we had two two main generators, but then we sort of had four, five other freelancers that came on sort of sporadically. They weren't full time. And then myself and the editor were generating as well.
And total time from the time that you got the green light until you shipped the finished film and the
Well,
BTS?
I mean, yeah, I don't know how to say like the green light, but my team, the contract and my team were done basically the 17th of December. We started on the 22nd of December, and everything was delivered on the 23rd of January.
Okay, okay. So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's quick.
It was quick as an understatement. Yep.
Now, did you have a production company? You ran this through your production company, or did you
Yeah.
partner?
No,
Okay.
I initially partnered with a larger AI production company, and that fell through. And so I
Mhm.
ended up
Gotcha. Yeah, I ask because I
oh,
see these projects come in and, for a freelancer, it's like, if you're a 1099 freelancer or a W-2 freelancer, it's like it's a whole different ballgame when you're dealing with a big company, and to deal that. Now, how many producers did you have?
um, technically, well, I had an executive producer. Everybody functioned like a producer because we all had to wear so many hats. So technically, there's three other producers. So I have Joanna Popper, who is an executive producer who came on board when the other company had dropped off, and she introduced me around town. She used to be sort of head of innovation over at CAA as an agent, and knows so many people in the XR and AI space. And so she, yes, she was executive producer and then sort of wore a producer hat towards the end as we were time crunched to deliver everything. And then I had Andrea Cott and Eric Wolford. He's a DP and she's a producer out of Florida, and they work together. And he wore a producer hat as well to pull together, the live action team and other things.
Great. It's that's
Yeah.
good. Like that's a good skill set to have the way you had it laid out. That's awesome. So once you were there, did you get to explore much, or were you spending all your time at the Adobe house?
Um, yeah, I was working right up until like the day before we screened the movie, and then there was just responsibilities of social media and the panel and such. And then I was literally just so tired that I tried to like catch up on a little bit of sleep because I had been averaging about 3 hours of sleep a night for 2 weeks. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Now they had parties at Adobe House that you were part of, yes?
Yeah, they did. They had a couple. The first one I couldn't make the first night I got in because of the work. But yeah, they had different activations and a dinner. So yeah, they had lots of stuff going on.
So if you think back to, your first trip to Sundance and being, trying to figure your way into parties like that and into venues like that, what was it like being on the other side of the red velvet rope?
Tim, I'm so much older now, and I just don't care about parties these days. That it was. I just was happy to be. I did stand in one line to go to the UTA Luma AI event, but it was still great because I saw so many people that I just met or knew in the AI space. But yeah, back in the day, getting into something, it was everything. I mean, was your name on the list? Could somebody squeeze you in? And now it was doing my job and supporting the project. And this is I guess, you used to think that you would go to these kind of events and that your life could change overnight by meeting somebody, and it doesn't. You just keep doing the work that you're passionate about and try to be a good person and support other people and then hopefully get to do something again.
Did you meet anybody that, you might be working with in the future,
I don't
this
know.
year?
The universe might surprise me. Yeah, I met a lot of people that I sort of knew peripherally in the AI space because of the newsletter, but that I got to hang out with more. So I don't know. Nothing that's on the books that I can report of right now.
Did you run into anybody from the old days of web video?
Well, of course I did. Bernie Sue is everywhere.
Yeah, Birdie Sue is everywhere. He definitely is.
Yep. No, we both had panels at the Sundance collab event on the Monday. His was later in the evening, and I was flying out that night, so I didn't get to see it. But yeah, I saw him around. He knows all the people in the AI space as well, and so it was really fun to see him.
Yeah. Did you, by chance meet any of the Curious Refuge folks there?
No, I've met them. I met them at a Promise event, when
Mhm.
Promise first launched. But no, I don't think I know them visually enough to know if I cross paths with them or not. I don't think I
Gotcha,
did.
you could have been standing right next to him and not know.
I could,
Okay.
yeah, I could have.
Yeah, yeah. So, after you left and went back home, uh, besides getting some sleep, did you go through withdrawals? Like, was it an experience where you're like, "Ah, wow, I wish I would've gone to see this or done that," or were there things that since you've been back that, to tell somebody that if they get a chance to do something like this, that, "Oh, don't forget to do this"?
Uh, Always sad that I didn't get to see a movie especially as this was the last year in Park City. We thought
Mhm.
that our flight was going to get delayed because of all the flight delays, and so I already had like the tickets that I was going to try to stand in line for the next day. So that's certainly a regret. But no, it's just you do the best that you can with what you're given, and it's like there was a lot of social media, and we were featured in Variety, and there was stories on the Variety Instagram page that I didn't look at the comments because I was warned not to. There's still a huge amount of backlash
Yeah. Yeah.
against generative AI, and even with Adobe that has ethically trained tools, which it's understandable. This is a challenging, difficult time, especially in Hollywood, but in the world in general. So I'm sympathetic to it, and I just stay out. I'm not gonna engage. I'm just gonna do the work that I want to do and try to share the knowledge that I'm learning in the space. Um, so no, but coming back, I had another panel that I had to prepare for and that the team was doing on that Thursday. And then I had to put on my producer accounting hat and pay people and go through books and invoices and all that stuff, which is just the other reality of it. And then figuring out, how to pick back up on my consulting day job and, start actually making a paycheck again and not just doing, a project for the good of my heart. So it's just about turning to reality and trying to still serve the project and support it and, do as much as I can.
So when you look at this space, you come to it with a skill set that, in my opinion, really you're poised to be super successful in this endeavor. Coming in with acting experience, coming in with directing experience, producing experience, and it just seems like such a perfect environment for you. Do you anticipate that you'll be making any projects solely by yourself?
That's a very good question. I don't think I've given myself the space or that question to dig into whether doing something on my own. I think that this project was so emblematic and symbolic of community that it's like it would almost feel sacrilegious to, like, be like, "Oh, now I'm gonna go do this on my own." Because often as a writer, and that's what I spend most of my time doing is writing, it is such a solitary experience. And so it is actually really wonderful to I kinda wanna, like, get back and just make something. I don't even know if there's AI elements in it or not, but just, to tell more stories and be behind the camera and be, collaborating with people I haven't collaborated with maybe in a while. So that's sort of where I feel that fire burning, and I have certainly I have so many projects as a writer that half of them I would want to direct, the other half I would just want to get set up and running, but I also want to encourage other uh, I want to create that sort of network of community of storytellers using new tools, especially because we're going to have to understand how to use new tools because we don't have the budgets that we used to, but we can create community, which is in and of itself an audience, and that's valuable. And that's what I really came away from Sundance seeing too, was the amount of influencer and content creators there that had what the filmmakers who had these beautiful films didn't have, which was a built-in audience, built-in ticket
Yeah,
sales. Look at what happened this weekend with what's it called? Dark Iron? I forget what it's called. The,
yeah,
movie YouTuber.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, even if you're traditional, and you're getting hired, the studio or the network wants you to have a following as an actor, as a director, as a writer. They want that built in, and so not having that social media presence is not good right now. I mean, it's
Yep.
almost like a college degree, you know? It's like you need to have that credential of having some audience that you can leverage, and then it gets to the point where if you have a big enough audience, why do you need the studio? Why do you need the network? You can figure it out on your own and monetize it on your own. Um,
Yeah.
are with the projects that you're thinking of, have you put any thought into, are you going to do them as an independent project and own all your IP, or do you want to partner with some deeper pockets and do it just to do it and lose the IP? Have you thought about that?
Yeah, I do. I think about it a lot, and it's funny where I analyze sort of what I've written and been working on over the past couple years, and it is so traditional Hollywood, where I'm like, why is this like a traditional TV series? Why did I create something that would need a bad robot and a Warner Brothers to like make this TV series a reality? So I do have I do have a feature film that's very contained, sci-fi elements to it. I definitely want to maintain the IP. I want to stay out of the traditional Hollywood system and raise funding in the biotech and longevity space sector, because that's sort of the where the movie takes place in. But yes, to your point, it's on my docket to start really thinking, what do some of these stories look like in absolutely new formats that are, IP driven, IP controlled. And I've been lucky enough from the web series space all the way to now to maybe have that bold and courageous nature to be like, okay, maybe I was always looking for that traditional Hollywood approval. I think a lot of us were, but I'm done with that now. I just want to be able to tell the stories. But at the end of the day, I do love movies. I love the experience of a movie in a theater on a big screen and like sweeping views, and I'm a romantic that way. And so there are some projects where I still want to experience it in that way.
What about vertical dramas?
What about vertical dramas, Tim? Yeah, I mean, what a great opportunity for up and coming directors and for actors to learn. Ironically, the folks at Holy Water reached out to me a year ago, and I'd never heard of them. I just knew it was this Ukrainian company, and yeah, I was in the middle of some other stuff, and I'm like, I don't know what this is. I'm just gonna like not respond, basically. And I was also applying for my citizenship, so I'm like, I have to be very careful about like, just
Sure.
work
Yeah.
and stuff. And then lo and behold, Holy Water is like a huge, huge vertical company now. And look at what Darmon did with 40, vertical film shorts being, financed by Fox Entertainment. It is a growing vertical. Um, so I mean, storytelling, and I'm talking with another company too about sort of in that vein when it comes to, AI content of, we were having to in web series learn how to tell stories and create hooks after like 4 to 7 minutes. Now they expect 60 seconds. It's a different way of storytelling. Is it
Yeah.
for I don't know if it's for me. But I
Yeah.
think it's a great space that's opening up, and I'm happy that it's engaging audiences.
We interviewed, Scott Brown. I don't know if you remember Scott, yeah.
Of
So
course I know.
Scott did Yeah, yeah. So Scott did an interview with us and kinda explained what he was up to and all of that, and it's definitely something where our group here, we're f we're scratching our heads going, "Okay, somebody's gonna create a series in generative AI that builds audience as a vertical," whether it's a sci-fi project or an animated series or something that looks like live action, it's going to happen. And so we're paying attention to it. It does seem like it has a lot of the promise of what we wanted back in the 2009 web
Yep.
series days. Um, but it also there's a dark side that it has. I don't know if you've been exposed to that in terms of a lot of the popular content itself seems like a Skinamax movie without any nudity or sex. It's got this weird, not my term, but somebody said it's kind of rapey. Is kind of the where they take advantage of young women and they just one peril after another of a young woman in danger. And
Mhm.
then on top of that, forget the content on the payment side, it seems like people are getting addicted to this content, and they're spending $80 a month per person on this
Wow.
content, and they have trouble canceling their accounts when they want to, and so there's there's a lot of backlash that I anticipate coming. I haven't seen it much in the press yet, but I just think that's gonna be the next shoe to drop, in the vertical series, and then, there will be a more mainstream, alley to it, but will the gatekeepers be in place? Is it something that people can do independently? Are you gonna be able to do this on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook? Will you be able to monetize as a sole creator? We don't know yet, but, I keep asking.
Yeah, I mean, do we want, 60-second bits of dopamine-driven entertainment? Is that beneficial to people? It's an escape. I think a lot of people are looking for escapism right now, and this is one variety of it. And it's just very parallel to the sort of dangers of social media in general, of just the scroll culture and not being able to sort of put it down. So yeah, I think that I know that from some actors who've worked in it, they say it's really grueling. I know you're expected, and I know this from talking to Scott, you're expected to shoot, at least 10 pages a day as a director. And I've done that before. And I've
It's
done that before.
fun.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fine.
So
You're not get, super well, Scott's work actually, I have to say, his series was definitely high quality. And the actress who was the lead in the series was the lead in my short film. He referred her.
very cool.
Yeah.
So moving forward, wave a magic wand. What are you doing next? What's the next big project that you'd like to hit the ball out of the park on?
This movie that I wrote, it does have, it has visual effects that will be AI assisted certainly in it. But it's a story that I really would love to tell and love to shoot. I just think visually it would be a really special, unique experience. So there's that. But then I have a lot of really interesting people that I'm talking to in different spaces. I think storytelling and this sort of mythic operating system, better futures initiative, that's really important to me. And making a movie often takes a couple years, and I would love to be able to catalyze storytelling and narrative work at a faster pace, because I feel like we need this narrative connective tissue. We need a new story that we can all connect to look towards a better future, as opposed to this gloom and doom post-apocalyptic worlds that were often shared in Hollywood, or just that the media perpetuates. So sort of as a as a leader in that space, merging storytelling and innovative technologies to our benefit.
So with those two endeavors, what are pieces of the puzzle that you need? How can people help you? Somebody might see this video. If they've made it all the way to the end here, what are you looking for your film, and what are you looking for this other storytelling project?
Hmm. Thank you for asking, and hello to those who made it to the end of this very interesting conversation with Tim Street. Um, what do I need? Well, introductions to unique financiers and family offices for the film. Really looking to sort of gain those financing relationships outside of the traditional Hollywood system. People who are excited about using storytelling for good, for society. And the same goes for, the work is all conjoined in this, kind of creating stories on different mediums, to sort of inspire us towards better futures. So people who want to get involved with that, because I want to create a network of this. I don't want to be the sole storyteller doing this. There's a lot of incredible people out there who are doing this work across the world. And I'd love just for us to be able to platform this and scale this, so that, these new stories, which do encompass new systems thinking, come more to the forefront. And I think community, both sort of at a civic level, and online, is really important.
O'Neill, thank you so much for spending this time with us. I look forward to seeing your next project. It's always
Thanks, Tim.
amazing to watch your work. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thanks, Tim, for having me.